Welcome to Meganet Gaming, and today's review is going to be on a review of the game Dreamfall Chapters. Dreamfall Chapters is the third game in the Longest Journey series. It was developed by Red Thread Games, and Funcom provided the license to them, given their shift in focus to multiplayer games at the time, including The Secret World. Published by Deep Silver, and it was released in chapters starting in 2014. The version we're looking at is the PC release, the final cut, which has all the chapters. It was released on July 21st of 2017. PS1 and XboxOne versions were also released that year. It is a Unity engine game, an example of the Unity engine being used to a game's advantage. So basically what this story focuses on, if you haven't played the first two, I'll try to not include any spoilers. But basically it focuses on a multiverse and then two specific instances within that multiverse. The multiverse was created from story time by Lux, the First Dreaming. So you have dreamers that are able to shape reality, and the dream must persist, and without the dream there is no reality. The game focuses heavily on balance, whether it's balance in the decisions you make throughout the game that will affect specific outcomes, or a balance between a variety of aspects of the game on different levels, with the most notable one being the balance between Stark, the logical, scientific technology universe within the multiverse, and then Arcadia, which is the magical one.
What's there to pay attention to?
And it kind of has the same general theme in that sense as Arcanum, where you have this conflict between technology and magic, science and anti-science, that is portrayed in such a way where it appears that the two cannot coexist. It's not that the coexistence of both are problematic. It's that when either one is taken to an extreme, it's problematic. You get to play as three characters: Zoe, who's from Stark, Keon, who's from Arcadia, and Saga, who's a reincarnation of April Ryan from the previous game. If you play the last game in this Dreamfall, The Longest Journey, keep in mind that Zoe starts this one with amnesia. So the first couple of books, you're going to be following a story arc similar to the last one as she recovers her memories. This game does start off very slow, especially the Stark content involving Zoe. It takes a lot of time trying to develop different characters and themes and the plot, with a lot of puzzles and interactions thrown in that are a bit trivial, and even when not trivial, they're just a bit mundane.
Oh yes, someone's leaving the house.
This game has a variety of conflicts and different layers of abstraction.
Almost like it's a real business of some sort.
You have the actual physical war going on between the magicals
Must be all that hanging around
and the
What are you guys up to?
Bip,
and the
what in Shadow's name are you doing here?
the nation of Azadir.
Oh, right.
You have the actual arguments
From Ulrich.
and even
He
some
says, come to the bar immediately.
conflicts
There's been
breaking down to
developments.
into violence
I
between the
don't know what
different political
developments
parties,
But Ulrich's
people that
face
support the
is
different
round,
political
so it's
parties in
probably
Europolis.
It always is.
But you also have
Good
the
job, Bip.
conflict
Let's not
between
keep
the dreaming
waiting.
and the
I'll
undreaming,
go first. We won't attract as much attention if we arrive
and you have a main antagonist who wants to destroy magic and merge the two worlds. This is a game very much focused on balance between seemingly contradictory ideas, between the balance between light and dark, good and evil, science, technology, and magic and tradition, reason and faith. And the story is laid out in such a way where it's a bit of a metaphor for the cycle of life. From birth, development, life, and then death, and then rebirth in another form. It also focuses a lot on power and its corrupting potential. Which you'll see with in the game with a couple people in Azadir who claim to be working for the goddess on the light side, yet their ulterior motives are anything but of the light. So you have a game here that's has a dense story and actually a lot of unique species and races that are, some of which are developed fairly well, others that are just kind of given a cursory glance. But they do provide journal entries, and
You see that gentleman sitting over there?
you have other information
Balance.
that you can look up
You lot don't know much
that's
about subterfuge, do you? That
auxiliary
man's
to
got a
the
start
actual
mechanic.
game
He
itself.
drinks here most nights, but I didn't know that part until I overheard
The
him
story,
speak to
voice
some
acting,
woman
and the
in
graphical style,
Seems
for the
that
most
pipe
part,
right here,
are done
there's a lot of tinkering
exceptionally
to be done.
well.
Our man over there carries a tool to open maintenance hatches. If we
And
could
it,
get inside
for the most part, it has a lot of believable interactions and behavior related to racism, politics, and faith.
if they find out you've taken his tools.
There's an instance where somebody that's a member of just an average person on the streets having a conversation. It's basically somebody that's a supporter of the reactionary person that's running for office. Another person's a social democrat. And both of them are laying out reasonable arguments. I know they're pretty shallow, and it's something you just hear passing on the street. But it is something that's believable that you'd possibly hear on an actual
It's important that I
real life street.
It's only fair that I include the others look to me for leadership now.
You also have the theme of the crisis of faith,
We all look for a solution.
which is also tied to the
That sounds
whole life cycle, the birth, life, and death,
fighting over every little decision.
in a bit of a metaphysical or metaphorical sense. Keon
Can drink. He usually
doesn't actually die in the story.
offer a few on the house to make
Well,
him stay longer.
he does, but he's brought back to life. That's part of the later part of the game. But he doesn't permanently die. But the Keon, the Keon of 5 years ago dies, and he is reborn as a more closely matched person to who he was as a boy, the person who saved the girl that you meet later on in the game. This is one of those games where the first review I did a quick run through the game once from beginning to end, skipping a lot of the stuff and not even paying attention to parts of it. Now I did about a 40% thorough run through a second time through. I scored this a 7 out of 10, which I regret. I end up pulling that review because you really do have to play this game all the way through and actually pay attention to give this a appropriate critique. At times it's very dense in a good way, a lot of depth. But then at other times you'll have oddly placed dialogue that's immersion breaking, like Saga cracking a joke about being in cheat mode,
This pipe has a hinged panel.
which is
I need a tool to open it.
it breaks the third wall, except a lot of the concepts being discussed in this game and explored, it doesn't really seem appropriate to toss in some third wall breaking joke like that. Like with the previous two games, there's some puzzles that are a bit out of place, a bit cryptic, and without a walkthrough or spending hours upon hours trying to interact with everything, you're not going to find the solution. And at times, the game just flat out won't let you select something, or it won't let you select something in the right way. So you end up you can watch the full playthrough that I did, and you'll see numerous times where I walk up to something that should give me an interaction option, and it just flat out won't, despite everything being triggered. So I walk off the screen and walk back to it a few times, and eventually it just lets me.
But wait, I remember someone talking about this before.
The game does have an odd pacing. The first half of the game is very slow, building towards the final plot.
What exactly are you doing?
Yet the last book has so much crammed into the story that there's actually very little gameplay.
I don't understand what you're saying.
It's like they were decided, alright, this game it can be such and such length. They'd used up 95% of that time, so they felt that they had to cram everything into the last part. Or perhaps it was a rush production, perhaps it needed to be out on the market.
One of them now.
There's a lot of critiquing to the script, the puzzles, and the gameplay itself that could have been done. However, excessive editing to the script could have made a much worse script. Because this is definitely an above average script, especially for a game.
Extract information from our vile little Azadi officer.
So what you have here is a very well done adventure game of the modern variety. I did a review on Firewatch previously, which with that game there's very little. It was basically a step above pressing play on a DVD player and watching a movie. There's a bit more interaction exploration, but there wasn't really any change you could make that was meaningful. In this game, some of the decisions you make will lead to certain characters dying. It actually feels like you're playing in a game. It's not heavy on action sequences. On the times where you actually engage in combat, it's going to be through a quick time event. But given the target audience for this, as well as the presentation of the story, it's appropriate. Had it gone into some lousy combat sequence, especially one that's done very poorly, it would have definitely hurt the experience of this game. So what you have here is a very well done story. It seems like it was produced at times in a chaotic environment. Seems a bit rushed. As far as an adventure game goes, as long as you can just ignore some of the bad dialogue and immersion breaking dialogue, just ignore some of the stuff that's out of place, rush through the rather insignificant puzzles and quests, just look up a walkthrough. Just try to rush through the stuff that's insignificant in the game. And the vast majority of the game is interesting and expands on a variety of themes in depth, taking a rather, at times, a stereotypical look, but for the most part is a well fleshed out, multiple view, explored on certain issues and concepts. As far as this game on the list, previously had a 7 out of 10. And after playing through it again and delving more deeply into it with an analytical mind, I'm willing to give this game an 8 out of 10, put it 17th on the list right above Super Mario Brothers, which has the same score, and right below Call of Duty 2. And you get the PC, PS4, or Xbox One games. On the PC, you can use a controller or keyboard. I did keyboard and mouse the whole time, and with the exception of a few issues trying to select things, which in those cases the controller also didn't work, so it wasn't a matter of the game not being optimized for a keyboard and mouse. The method of control doesn't really matter. And there is a lot of areas to explore in the game. And there are a few invisible walls, but nothing that's immersion breaking. So if you're into adventure gaming or stories that have a well thought out universe, character development and progression, this is a game to definitely check out. So 8 out of 10. And check out my complete playthrough of the game. It's available over there it's on my page. There's a playlist for it under the Let's Plays Complete. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.